Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on a journey into a concept that echoes in the daily prayers and reflections of millions of Muslims worldwide. Sirat al-Mustaqim.
That specific phrase.
Exactly. You've likely heard it, even if its full meaning isn't immediately clear. It's that constant invocation, the heartfelt plea for divine guidance found right at the very beginning of the Qur'an.
Right there in Al-Fatiha.
But what is this straight path, really? Why does it carry such, profound spiritual weight? And what does it truly mean to walk it in our modern lives?
And what's truly illuminating here, I think, is how this seemingly simple concept of a straight path opens up just vast theological and historical insights.
Right.
It taps into a fundamental human quest. I mean, how do we find direction, purpose?
That's the universal question, really.
Absolutely. For Muslims, and maybe especially within the Ismaili tradition we're looking at, this isn't just some philosophical query. It's a vibrant, lived reality. It's right at the absolute core of their faith.
And that's the heart of our exploration today. Our mission, our deep dive, is to unpack Sirat al-Mustaqim, to grasp its absolute centrality in Islam, and critically to understand how it's uniquely interpreted and, vibrantly lived within the Ismaili Muslim tradition.
That living aspect is key.
Definitely. We'll delve into its deep historical context, analyze crucial moments where humanity perhaps deviated from it.
And the consequences of that.
Exactly, the consequences. And see just how powerfully relevant it remains in our complex contemporary world. Our source material for this deep dive is a comprehensive exploration of this very concept, giving us a really rich tapestry of insight.
A lot to draw from.
So let's begin this journey. Let's dive into a concept that has guided millions, still offers incredible clarity today.
And we'll explore not just what this path is, but why it matters so deeply to a lived spiritual experience, and, importantly, how its living nature continues to shape the lives of believers in a constantly evolving world.
Okay, so to really grasp the essence of Sirat al-Mustaqim, we need to start with its fundamental nature. It's far more than just a physical road, isn't it?
Oh, vastly more. It's not a simple road on a map, or even just a static set of rules you follow. At its core, Sirat al-Mustaqim is best understood as a divine orientation.
An orientation, like an inner compass.
Exactly like an inner compass, but one that doesn't just point north. Imagine it perfectly aligning your entire being. Your consciousness, your morality, every action you take with the ultimate will and purpose of Allah, the one God.
Wow. So it's about aligning everything.
It's about calibrating your whole inner and outer life so it resonates harmoniously with the divine source.
So it's not merely about performing specific actions then, but fundamentally about being a certain way, a way that's totally synchronized with the divine. That sounds like a profound shift in perspective.
Precisely. It's a fundamental shift.
Yeah.
And in Ismaili thought, this concept takes on an even more dynamic and living dimension, viewed as just a static code, established once and fixed forever. Instead, it's understood as a living, evolving relationship with the divine.
A relationship.
Okay. Yeah, a relationship that's continually guided by ongoing spiritual insight. And crucially, it's embodied in the living presence of the Imam-of-the-Time.
Ah, the loving Imam, that's central.
Absolutely central. This transforms it from some abstract theoretical concept into a vibrant, dynamic reality that actively engages with the contemporary world and all its challenges. It keeps it alive.
That's a really crucial distinction, this idea of a living path. And as we mentioned, the foundational prayer for this path is right there in the Qur'an in Surah al-Fatiha, the very first chapter, recited daily by millions. Can you walk us through those pivotal verses?
Certainly. The primary invocation, the one you hear constantly, is in Surah al-Fatiha, verses 6 to 7. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor, not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray.
So succinct, yet so powerful.
Exactly. It's repeated countless times daily by every Muslim. And it reveals these three distinct categories of humanity, almost like a spiritual typology. It's a constant call for discernment in a world absolutely full of choices.
Three categories: the favored, the wrathful, and the astray. What do these imply for someone, reflecting on their own spiritual journey? Where do they fit?
Well, think about it. First, you have those upon whom God has bestowed favor. These are the individuals who are truly aligned with divine guidance. They genuinely embody grace and divine pleasure.
Okay, the guided ones.
Then there are those who have incurred divine wrath. This signifies people who knowingly, consciously reject divine guidance. They turn away from what they know is clear and right.
A deliberate choice.
A deliberate turning away. And finally, those who have gone astray. These are often people who deviate maybe through ignorance or perhaps misdirection, or maybe they just simply lose their way amidst life's complexities.
So for anyone listening, this prompts some deep introspection, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It forces you to ask, am I truly aligning myself with divine grace? Or am I maybe unknowingly following paths that diverge from it? Is it conscious rebellion or just a lack of clarity? It really forces you to place yourself on this kind of spiritual map. Where do I stand right now?
And the Qur'an even gives us clues about who these favored people are, right? But what does it mean to emulate them? Especially for us today, centuries later, so removed from their direct presence.
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Qur'an 4.69 specifies that these favored individuals include the prophets, the truthful witnesses, and the righteous. So it gives us concrete examples, archetypes almost, of the qualities and individuals we should aspire towards.
But how do you follow them now?
Exactly. That's the challenge for believers today. How do you truly follow these revered figures? How do we emulate their path when they lived so long ago and we're so far removed from that time of direct revelation? This very question, this challenge, leads directly to the concept of imamat, which, particularly in Ismaili theology, provides that continuous living guidance. It's the contemporary link, the bridge back to that ancient legacy.
Got it. So let's look closer at the words themselves, Sirat al-Mustaqim. What do their roots, their etymology, tell us about this path's nature?
Good question. Etymologically, Sirat refers to a road, but specifically a clearly marked, well-defined road, one you can unmistakably see and follow. There's no guesswork.
Clearly marked. Okay.
And Mustaqim means straight, upright, or direct. It implies something that doesn't bend, doesn't meander, doesn't deviate. It goes right to the point.
So straight and clear.
Exactly. Together, Sirat al-Mustaqim conveys this powerful idea of an unwavering, direct path that leads precisely where it's intended to go. There's no ambiguity, no hidden turns, no, complex detours. It's a direct conduit.
But despite that linguistic clarity, you mentioned it's not always an easy path to actually walk. What are some of the inherent challenges?
Right, that's a vital point that often gets, overlooked. A spiritual path, even a crystal clear one, inherently demands profound effort. It's not a passive journey.
It takes work.
A lot of work.
Yeah,
it requires constant vigilance against distraction, against slipping. It demands strict moral discipline, especially when facing temptation. And it needs a continual renewal of faith, particularly when you're faced with doubt or hardship.
And the Qur'an warns about this.
It does. The Qur'an itself cautions us in Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 153. It reminds us that even after receiving clear signs and instructions, many people chose to follow other ways, these alternative pathways that ultimately separated them from the divine path. So the clarity of the path doesn't negate the very real, very human challenge of actually staying on it amidst all of life's complexities and pulls.
Okay, so how does this path, which can be challenging despite its clarity, become truly tangible for humanity? How do people actually see it, connect with it?
This is where the concept really comes alive, where it moves from abstract idea to lived reality. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his progeny, is the one who made this path tangible for all humanity.
How so?
His entire life was a living embodiment of the straight path. Every action, every decision, every single interaction reflected divine wisdom made manifest.
So he lived it.
He was it, in a sense. But crucially, he also ensured its continuity beyond his own earthly presence. Famously, the hadith of Ghadir Qum.
Yes, you mentioned that.
He didn't just point to the path, he declared, I am the straight path of God. A profound statement.
Wow.
And then, in that pivotal moment of ensuring succession, he proclaimed, of whomsoever I am Mawla, Ali is also his Mawla.
Meaning master or guide?
Master, guide, guardian, yes. This is a profound declaration of spiritual succession. He was ensuring that the divine guidance, the straight path itself, would not end with his physical departure.
It would continue.
It would continue, exactly. Brilliantly illuminated through those who inherited his divine authority, the imams, who would serve as the custodians of this path, keeping it accessible and clear across all time.
So walking this path isn't just about, say, adhering to rules or performing rituals, though those are obviously vital parts of faith. It's about something much deeper.
Much deeper. It's a conscious transformation of one's entire being.
Okay.
To genuinely walk Sirat al-Mustaqim means sort of reframing our whole notion of what it means to be on a path. It's not merely about avoiding sin or mechanically performing religious duties.
More than ticking boxes.
Way more. It's about walking consciously in divine light, living under continuous divine direction, and maybe most importantly, striving constantly to transform one's character, aligning every single aspect of your being with God's will.
And in the Ismaili tradition, you said it means walking with the Imam.
Exactly. Not passively behind in mere admiration, though respect is there, but actively alongside him, in deep trust, in selfless service, and with profound love. This transforms the spiritual journey into a deeply personal, intimate, and always evolving experience.
Okay, that makes sense. So, to walk this straight path with real conviction, you truly need a solid spiritual foundation, a kind of robust theological framework to lean on.
You definitely do.
And in Islam, that framework is often described through a powerful triad of foundational doctrines, right?
You're right. This triad provides the essential spiritual architecture, if you like, for a divinely guided life. It comprises Tawhid, Nubuwah, and Imamah.
Tawhid, Nubuwah, Imamah.
Yes, and each component is interdependent. They form a coherent system that underpins the very possibility of walking the straight path with certainty and clarity.
Okay, let's start with Tawhid. That's the core belief in the oneness of God, isn't it? But it sounds like it's more than just a theological statement you make.
It is. Tawhid is the absolute bedrock, the foundation of all Islamic theology. It's the assertion that God is one utterly singular in essence, transcendent in majesty, beyond any comparison.
As the Qur'an says.
Exactly, as the Qur'an states so unequivocally in Surah Al-Ikhlas. Say, He is Allah, one, Allah the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there to him any equivalent. Clear and absolute.
But you said it's more than just metaphysics.
Yes, and this is the real aha moment, I think. Tawhid isn't just a metaphysical declaration you assent to. It's a profound way of perceiving all reality. Everything.
How so?
It teaches that all of creation is interconnected, unified under a single divine origin. So every moment, every action, every intention in your life should ideally be aligned with the will of this one God. In essence, you could say the straight path is the lived expression of Tawhid.
Bringing that oneness into everyday life.
Exactly. Bringing that divine oneness into the multiplicity, the complexity of human experience. Transforming even mundane actions into potentially sacred acts.
Okay. So if it's the singular foundation, the bedrock, what about Nubuwah, the prophetic light? How does that illuminate the path?
Nubuwah, or prophethood, signifies God's profound mercy, His compassion. The understanding is that God, in His infinite wisdom, didn't just leave humanity to stumble around in darkness.
He sent guidance.
He sent prophets to every nation, guiding them towards truth, awakening their spiritual potential. And Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his progeny, stands as the seal of the prophets, Khatam and Nabiyyin.
The final prophet.
The final prophet, chosen to deliver the final comprehensive revelation through the Qur'an.
And he wasn't just a messenger then. He was the ultimate role model for actually walking this path.
Absolutely. The prophet didn't just deliver a message. He exemplified the straight path in every fiber of his being. His character, his decisions, his boundless mercy, we talked about that. His life was a living testament, showing humanity what it truly means to walk in the light of God.
Bi'uswatun hasanah.
The perfect model, yes. But crucial to this, as we discussed earlier, was his foresight at Ghadir Qum, that declaration, ensuring his mission wouldn't just end with his earthly presence, but would continue through a divinely appointed succession. This protected the path, protected humanity from, well, spiritual fragmentation.
And that leads us directly to the third part of this triad, which is indispensable for Ismailis, Imamah, the continuity of divine guidance. It sounds like this is more than just, say, leadership succession in the usual sense.
You're absolutely right. In Shia, and particularly in Ismaili theology, Imamah is seen as the direct continuation of the spiritual authority of prophethood. That's the key distinction.
Spiritual authority, not just political.
Precisely. It's crucial to understand this isn't about new scripture or new revelation. It's about a living, ongoing source of spiritual guidance that interprets the existing revelation for each specific age.
Making it relevant.
Always making it relevant. The Imams are far more than just scholars or political figures. They are divinely appointed guides. Their fundamental role is to interpret the Qur'an for each generation, to protect the community's spiritual integrity, and to serve as the living rope of God, Allah, as mentioned in Qur'an 3.103.
The rope of God. A powerful image.
It is. They are the clear link, the constant spiritual presence connecting the community back to the divine source.
So is there explicit Quranic support for this idea of continuous divinely appointed leadership, or is it mainly from tradition?
No, there's definitely Quranic support cited. The Qur'an explicitly refers to the manifest Imam in Surah Yasin, chapter 36, verse 12, speaking of a clear living guide.
The manifest Imam.
Yes, and perhaps even more directly, it instructs believers, obey Allah, obey the messenger, and those vested with authority among you. That's Quran 4.59.
Those vested with authority.
Exactly. For Ismailis, those vested with authority, the Ulil Amr are unequivocally the divinely appointed imams, a lineage of spiritual successors whose authority is sanctioned by God, not self-declared or, humanly elected.
And historically?
Well, tragically, the decision by parts of the early Muslim community to bypass Imam Ali's designated leadership right after the Prophet's passing is seen as a profound deviation from this divine plan. And history clearly shows this led to immense division, doctrinal distortion, and, frankly, spiritual disillusionment for many.
But in the Ismaili tradition, that chain of authority, that chain of imams has remained unbroken. How does that make the straight path distinctively accessible today?
That's the profound insight here and why it's so central. The line of imams in the Ismaili tradition has remained unbroken, culminating today in the 50th hereditary imam, Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan.
The present imam.
The present, living imam. He embodies this divine light for our present age. He offers not just doctrinal clarity, but also practical, living guidance on everything from ethics and governance to education, global engagement, you name it.
So the path remains visible.
Vibrantly visible and entirely relevant. Through his living example and guidance, the straight path acts as a dynamic, evolving guide for modern challenges. It prevents the faith from becoming just a historical relic stuck in the past.
Okay, that triad makes sense, but then there's a fourth concept you mentioned, wilaya. How does that tie it all together and make this path a lived reality?
Wilaya, yes. It's absolutely crucial. Wilaya defines the unique bond, a bond of love, obedience, and profound allegiance that exists between the imam and the believer.
Love, obedience, allegiance.
Yes, but it's crucial to understand it's not seen as a blind, unquestioning submission. It's described more as a conscious trust, deeply rooted in the recognition of the imam's divine wisdom and his role as the guide.
And what does that relationship provide?
Through this intimate relationship, the believer finds immense stability, clarity, and unparalleled spiritual elevation. Imam Ali himself described this connection beautifully. He called it a light in the heart of the believer, by which he sees the truth and walks among people with clarity.
A light in the heart.
An inner illumination. It guides perception, guides action.
So wilaya sounds like the crucial link, the glue maybe, making this potentially abstract path profoundly personal. Is that the right way to see it?
I think that's a very good way to see it. Theologically, wilaya is what gives Sirat al-Mustaqim its form, its coherence, its personal resonance. Without it, the path might feel like just a collection of scattered obligations, a series of isolated rules to follow.
Disconnected.
Potentially, yes. But with wilaya, the spiritual journey becomes purposeful, deeply personal, and intimate, a conscious walk with the divine, through the guiding hand, the wisdom of the chosen imam.
So these anchors, Tawad Nubuwa, Imama, and Wilaya, they provide the strength to walk this path.
They really do. They provide the strength, the direction, the framework needed to walk with certainty in what can often feel like very uncertain times. They give the believer a clear spiritual compass. And this really raises an important question for anyone listening, doesn't it? In a world overflowing with information, with so many competing narratives and voices vying for your attention, how do you discern truly reliable guidance?
A huge challenge today.
Exactly. These theological anchors, this framework, provide the strength and direction needed to navigate that, to walk with certainty.
Okay, let's pivot slightly. We've established the theological framework. Now let's look more closely at the Qur'an itself. You said it's like a spiritual map, with Sirat al-Mustaqim as the central highway. It's not just a passing mention then.
Oh, far from it. That's an excellent analogy, the spiritual map. The Qur'an is absolutely the foundational source for all Islamic belief and practice, and its use of the Sirat al-Mustaqim metaphor is profoundly embedded throughout.
Not just in the beginning.
No, it runs through it. It's far from being just a vague symbol. It's a deeply rooted theological and moral concept that consistently points to the necessary alignment between divine truth, human conduct, and our ultimate eternal destiny. It really provides the very blueprint for that journey, making it a constant reference point within the divine scripture itself.
And as we discuss, it begins right there in Surah al-Fatiha, the opening chapter, an almost existential cry for divine anchoring, a daily plea for cosmic direction.
Absolutely. When you recite, "Guide us to the straight path," the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor, not of those who have incurred your wrath, nor those who have gone astray, in every single prayer multiple times a day.
It becomes ingrained.
Deeply ingrained. It's not a casual request. It's a profound appeal for divine direction in a world that's just full of moral ambiguity and competing ideologies. And that Quranic classification of humanity, favored, wrathful, astray, it isn't just descriptive, it's prescriptive. It demands introspection from each of us every day.
And the Imam's role ties into this.
Crucially, for Ismailis, the Imam-of-the-Time plays a vital role in illuminating what that favored path actually looks like in the context of each specific generation. He makes it relevant for contemporary life by providing specific, actionable guidance rooted in eternal principles.
Making the ancient relevant now. Okay, and the Qur'an also makes very clear that this path is exclusive, right? It's not presented as just one of many equally valid options. This seems like a critical point.
It is absolutely critical. In Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, verse 153, Allah states very forcefully, "And indeed, this is my path. Straight so follow it, and do not follow other ways, for they will separate you from His way. This has instructed you that you may become righteous."
Do not follow other ways. Pretty clear.
Extremely clear. This verse emphasizes the exclusivity of the straight path. It's presented as non-negotiable. And interestingly, deviation doesn't just happen through outright denial or rejection. Often it happens through what the verse calls other ways or multiplicity, by following many scattered ideas, perhaps too many unaligned leaders, instead of the singular, divinely appointed guide.
So multiplicity itself is a danger.
It can be, if it leads away from the one true path. The Imam, in this context, serves as the spiritual bridge to God, offering that unifying clarity precisely in times of such confusion and multiplicity. It's about finding coherence over potential chaos.
And that ties directly into the concept of authority, doesn't it? The Qur'an seems to give a clear model for who to obey, almost like a chain of command for guidance.
It does provide a very clear structure. Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 59, offers this critical structure for obedience. "O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those vested with authority among you."
Allah, the messenger, and those with authority.
That triad. It's the Quranic blueprint for trustworthy guidance. Again, for Ismailis, those vested with authority, the Uli Amr, are specifically identified as the Imams, the divinely appointed successors after the Prophet, whose authority is sanctioned by God Himself, not self-declared or derived from human election. This clarifies the source of legitimate, continuous spiritual leadership down through the ages.
And then there's that really profound verse in Surah Yasin about the manifest Imam. What's the deeper meaning there from an Ismaili perspective?
Yes. 36.12. A truly powerful verse. Surah Yasin states, "And we have vested everything in the manifest Imam, Kulla shayin asaynahu fi imamim mubin."
Vested everything. That sounds all-encompassing.
It does. In Ismaili understanding, this is a direct reference to the living Imam, the Imam al-Mubin. He is seen as the repository, the container, if you will, of both the outer exoteric law, the Sharia, and the inner esoteric, meaning the Hakika, of the revelation.
Both outer and inner.
Both. He's not only a guide in this world, but functions as a living mirror of divine wisdom, reflecting God's knowledge, God's light, for humanity in every single era. This isn't just about preserving information from the past. It's about making divine knowledge dynamically accessible now.
The Qur'an also uses the imagery of light quite often to describe guidance, doesn't it? How does that connect specifically to the straight path and the Imam?
Yes, the imagery of light, nur, is central. The famous verse of light in Surah An-Nur, chapter 24, verse 35 says, "Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth, light upon light. Allah guides to His light whom He wills."
Light upon light.
Beautiful imagery. And this light is intrinsically linked to guidance. To walk the straight path is essentially to walk in the light of God. A light that is made visible through divine revelation, yes, but vitally it's also embodied and made manifest in the living person of the Imam.
So the Imam embodies that light.
He becomes the clear beam, the lighthouse, illuminating the way forward on the path.
And ultimately, the Qur'an is very clear about the consequences, the outcomes of either staying on the path or straying from it. It links our choices directly to eternal outcomes.
Indeed it does. The Qur'an consistently contrasts those who are on the straight path with those who are led astray. For example, in Surah Maryam, chapter 19, verses 85-86, it speaks about gathering the righteous to the most merciful and driving the criminals to hell.
A stark contrast.
a very stark contrast. This dichotomy constantly reminds believers that the path you choose to walk in this life ultimately determines your eternal outcome. And for the faithful, the presence of the Imam, the knowledge that you are following divinely sanctioned guidance, provides a profound assurance that one is truly walking in truth, aligning themselves with God's pleasure, and hopefully securing their ultimate spiritual destiny.
So the really profound insight here, weaving all these verses together, is that the Qur'an doesn't just mention a path. It reveals it as the very, the operating system for human existence, calling us constantly to unity, to ethics, and to recognizing a specific divinely sanctioned authority.
That's a great way to put it, an operating system. It's not a fragmented concept mentioned here and there. It's a deeply integrated blueprint for how to live a life oriented towards the divine.
It runs right through the whole scripture.
Absolutely. The Qur'an doesn't merely describe the path. It integrates it into the very fabric of existence, demanding an intentional ethical response from humanity. And the Imam-of-the-Time, by interpreting this path within contemporary context, enables the seeker to walk with certainty, avoiding the pitfalls of speculation or the fragmentation that have, unfortunately, plagued communities without such living guidance.
Okay, so if the Qur'an lays out the path, the map, then the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his progeny, quite literally walked it. He wasn't just a messenger delivering the map. He was the living embodiment of Sirat al-Mustaqim.
Precisely. You've captured it perfectly. His life was the visible expression of what it means to live fully in divine light, characterized by profound humility, unwavering integrity, absolute justice, and that boundless compassion we spoke of.
He wasn't just someone to listen to.
No. He was the ultimate exemplar, the beautiful model uswatun hasan in every fiber of his being. Through him, believers could learn not just what to do, but how to truly be. He remains the eternal standard, the benchmark, for what it means to live a truly God-centered life. You could almost call his like a divine syllabus for human growth.
A divine syllabus, I like that. And a core aspect of his embodiment, you mentioned earlier, was the profound balance he maintained between his inner spiritual life and his outward actions. That seems like a crucial lesson in holistic living, especially today.
It is one of the most remarkable and perhaps challenging features of his life to emulate. The prophet spent long hours deep in prayer and profound supplication, in spiritual reflection, cultivating this extraordinary inner devotion, an intense connection.
But he wasn't withdrawn from the world.
Not at all. Simultaneously, he was actively engaged in building a society rooted in profound justice, emphasizing education for all, upholding social responsibility. His personal simplicity, his extraordinary generosity, his unwavering faith, even when facing immense persecution. All of it beautifully illustrates the kind of spiritual discipline that kept him in constant alignment with the divine in every single moment.
It's a powerful lesson.
A powerful lesson in integrating deep faith with active, engaged life, not separating the two.
And his mercy was legendary, a true hallmark of his character. You said it wasn't just a feeling, right? It was active.
It was an active force, yes. The Qur'an itself describes him this way in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 107. And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds, rahmatan lil alamin.
Mercy to all the worlds.
To everything. And this mercy wasn't a passive emotion like feeling sorry for someone. It was an active form of ethical guidance. He demonstrated profound mercy to the poor, the vulnerable, even to his staunchest enemies, to animals, to those who wronged him personally.
That's remarkable.
It really is. He showed humanity that true strength isn't found in vengeance or retaliation, but in forgiveness, in compassion, and that divine love is absolutely inseparable from justice. His life was the living commentary on this profound principle.
And then, as we touched on before, there's that truly pivotal moment at Ghadir Qum, where he ensured the path's continuation, almost a final act of divine foresight, ensuring the guidance wouldn't stop.
It really feels like the ultimate act of ensuring continuous divine guidance for humanity. As the prophet neared the end of his earthly mission, he made absolutely certain that the guidance he brought, the light he embodied, would endure.
He planned for it.
Deliberately. At Ghadir Qum, before that massive gathering, estimates are often over 100,000 witnesses.
Incredible.
He solemnly proclaimed, "Whoever I am Mawla to, Ali is his Mawla." Again, Mawla meaning master, guide, protector. This wasn't just some political endorsement or a show of familial preference. It was understood as a profound spiritual mandate.
Assigning the role.
Explicitly. The prophet was unequivocally affirming that the divine path, the straight path, requires a living guide to carry its light forward into the future. Just as he was the luminous guide of his time, Imam Ali and his designated progeny after him would continue to carry that same light, ensuring the path's continued luminosity and accessibility.
And that event is widely attested.
Oh yes, widely attested in historical sources across different schools of thought. It marks a critical turning point in Islamic history. It illustrates powerfully that divine guidance is never just left to chance or to human interpretation alone. The Prophet entrusted the amana, the sacred trust of spiritual leadership, to the one whose soul mirrored his own in courage, wisdom, and profound spiritual depth, Imam Ali.
So back to Surah Yasin, when it addresses the Prophet directly as being on a straight path, it really means his entire existence was the path itself, not just that he happened to be following it correctly.
Precisely. Surah Yasin 36.4 states it directly. Indeed, you are among the messengers on a straight path. The Prophet didn't just follow this path, he was its walking embodiment. Every single facet of his life, from his most public actions like the compassionate treatment of women and orphans, down to his most mundane daily habits, was seen as an articulation of divine wisdom and practice.
So his life is meant to be emulated holistically.
Exactly. Spiritually and ethically in its entirety, not just picking and choosing rituals. It's a complete syllabus for human growth, as we said.
And this legacy continues, ensuring that the means to follow him, to stay on that path, remain available for all generations.
Yes, that's the core idea of the continuity. The Prophet didn't just instruct Muslims to follow him during his lifetime and then leave them hanging. He entrusted them with the tangible means, the living connection, to continue doing so after his physical departure.
Through Imam Ali first.
Through Imam Ali, his cousin and son-in-law, who was the first of those entrusted with carrying this sacred mission forward. And in the Ismaili tradition, each imam in that unbroken lineage, right down to the present day, is considered a living reflection of the Prophet's soul and character.
A reflection of the Prophet's soul.
Yes. As the Prophet himself declared in another well-known tradition, Ali is with the truth, and the truth is with Ali. This isn't interpreted as just a symbolic statement of praise. It's seen as a profound theological truth, affirming that the straight path itself is preserved and illuminated through the continuous light of the Imam in every age.
So connecting this all together, the Prophet's life provides that divine syllabus, as you put it, and his choice at Ghadir Qum was the ultimate act of guidance, ensuring the path's luminosity wouldn't fade but would continue through the Imams.
Absolutely. It guarantees that humanity would always have a living source of divine wisdom, a manifest guide, to help navigate its ever-changing circumstances and stay true to the straight path.
Okay, so if the Prophet was the walking embodiment, then Imam Ali, peace be upon him, was the direct continuation of that embodiment, the living proof, if you will, that the straight path, the Sirat al-Mustaqim, continued right after the Prophet's passing.
Absolutely. That's precisely the understanding. The Prophet did not leave his community adrift, spiritually rudderless. At Ghadir Qum, he explicitly appointed Imam Ali as the Mullah again, that term signifying guardian, master, spiritual guide for all believers who took the Prophet as their mullah.
Not a casual gesture.
Far from it. It wasn't merely political succession. It was understood as a divine decree, profoundly intended to preserve the light, the integrity, the very essence of the straight path for all generations to come. He was the vital, immediate link in that chain of guidance.
And Imam Ali was renowned for his incredible knowledge, particularly his deep understanding of the Qur'an. How did that specific knowledge equip him for this role as a guide?
His knowledge was indeed considered unparalleled among the companions. Imam Ali was renowned not just for memorizing the Qur'an, but for his profound understanding of its context, its layers of meaning, its inner spirit. His extraordinary proximity to the Prophet gave him unique insights.
The Prophet called him the gate of knowledge.
Exactly, the famous declaration, I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is its gate. Through Imam Ali, the nascent Muslim community gained access not just to the literal text, but to the deeper, often esoteric meanings of the revelation.
And we still have access to his wisdom.
We do. His collected sermons, letters, and sayings, preserved in the timeless work known as Nahj al-Balagha, the peak of eloquence, remain an enduring source of profound spiritual wisdom even today. It demonstrates his exceptional capacity to unravel complex truths and provide those esoteric interpretations, illuminating the inner dimensions of faith in the batin.
So he didn't just understand the faith intellectually at a high level. He actually lived it, making those abstract principles incredibly tangible for people around him.
Precisely. That's the crucial part. Ali didn't merely comment on the faith from an academic distance. He lived it in every fiber of his being, in every situation. In every action, He meticulously upheld justice, tirelessly served the poor and needy, and resolutely protected the rights of the marginalized and vulnerable.
Even in leadership.
Especially in leadership. His governance, when he finally assumed the caliphate after years of being sidelined, was characterized by profound humility and an absolutely uncompromising moral compass. In this way, he became the straight path in action, the living, breathing bridge between the divine word and concrete human experience. He demonstrated how high principles translate into practice, even amidst the most challenging political landscapes imaginable.
That Ghadir declaration you mentioned, it sounds like it was a truly monumental event, more than just appointing a successor. You said it felt like a spiritual culmination. Could you elaborate on its significance beyond just succession?
It really was monumental. The event of Ghadir Qum stands as a landmark, a cornerstone of spiritual succession in Shia and Ismaili thought. Imagine that scene. An immense gathering, over 120,000 companions estimated, returning from the final pilgrimage.
A huge audience.
Massive. And the Prophet solemnly stops the caravan, gathers everyone, raises Ali's hand high, and declares, Man kuntu malahu fa Aliun malahu. Whomsoever I am Mawla to, Ali is also his Mawla.
A clear public designation.
And then came a Quranic verse. Immediately following this declaration, according to many traditions, came the revelation of a key verse in the Qur'an, Surah Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 3. This day I've perfected for you your religion and completed my favor upon you and have approved for you Islam as your religion.
Perfection and completion.
Exactly. This timing is seen as profoundly significant. It wasn't just an incidental moment in history. It was understood as the spiritual culmination of the Prophet's entire prophetic mission. He was unequivocally entrusting the straight path, the perfected religion, to Ali, who would then preserve and transmit its essential spiritual core through the unbroken line of imams from his progeny. It completed the divine framework for guidance for all time.
Yet, despite this incredibly clear appointment, witnessed by so many, his leadership faced immense challenges right away. What happened? Why the delay?
Indeed, it's one of the great tragedies of early Islamic history. Despite the divine designation at Ghadir, Imam Ali was not immediately accepted as the leader by all factions. The intense political disputes, tribal loyalties, and competing interests that erupted immediately following the Prophet's death unfortunately led to a tragic delay in his leadership.
And this caused division.
Most consequentially, yes. It sowed deep divisions within the nascent Muslim community, divisions that sadly echo even today. Yet it's crucial to note that Ali himself never sought power for its own sake. He withdrew from public life for years.
He didn't fight for it.
No. He accepted the leadership role, the caliphate, only decades later when the community was in turmoil and it became absolutely necessary to try and restore justice and spiritual integrity to a society that was rapidly fracturing under previous leaderships.
And how did he rule?
During his caliphate, he governed with unparalleled justice. He treated even his most fervent enemies, those who fought against him, with fairness and equity according to Islamic principles. He famously refused to compromise on truth and principle, even when it cost him dearly politically.
His letter to Malik al-Ashtar.
Yes. His renowned letter to Malik al-Ashtar, his appointed governor in Egypt, is often cited even by secular historians as a timeless constitution of ethical governance. It remains a gold standard for leadership principles emphasizing justice, compassion, accountability relevant for all humanity, not just Muslims.
So Ali wasn't just an outer leader, the caliph, but also, crucially for the Ismaili understanding, a guide to the inner esoteric path, the bastion of the faith. How does this inner path aspect really differ from other understandings of religious leadership?
That's a key distinction in Ismaili understanding, yes. In addition to his role as the rightful outer leader, Imam Ali served as the profound guide of the inner path, the batin, the esoteric dimension of the faith that lies beneath the surface of the literal texts and rituals.
The hidden meaning.
The hidden spiritual meaning. In Ismaili theology, he is recognized as the first imam, the primary esoteric interpreter, muawwil, of revelation, and the very fountainhead of tawil, the spiritual interpretation or unveiling of the Qur'an's deeper layers.
And his role is cosmic, too.
In a sense, yes. His role isn't merely historical, but also cosmic. There are interpretations linking him to verses like Quran 39.56, referring to the sight of God, Janbala, signifying his profound proximity to the divine, and his role in reflecting divine attributes for humanity. Through him, the divine message is protected from distortion, and through him, the believer learns to walk not just in ritualistic observance, the zahir, but deeply in spirit, the batin.
So he is the path.
In this profound sense, Imam Ali is understood as embodying the straight path, not just an abstract theology, but as a living, breathing guide for lived mysticism, deep inner understanding, and connection to the divine.
Okay, so Imam Ali isn't just a revered historical figure. He's seen as the living, breathing continuation of that divine light and guidance that started with the Prophet, establishing the standard for all who follow, embodying the very essence of the straight path. This is a powerful continuity.
Absolutely. His unparalleled knowledge, his unwavering ethics, and his profound spiritual insight truly set the standard for all who followed in the Imam after him. To know Ali in this tradition is to truly know the very heart of Islam. To walk with him through allegiance to the Imam-of-the-Time is to walk directly with divine light. He laid the essential blueprint for how divine leadership would manifest in human form for generations to come.
History, they say, is a great teacher. And when we look at the trajectory of the straight path, particularly after Imam Ali, history provides a rather sobering mirror, doesn't it? It seems to reveal the profound consequences when divine guidance, as embodied in the Imams, is neglected or outright rejected.
It absolutely does. History is far more than just a record of past events. It's a living reflection, often a harsh one, of the consequences of human choices, especially choices regarding leadership and guidance. In the context of Sirat al-Mustaqim, history starkly reveals a recurring pattern. Every single time divine guidance represented by the Imam was neglected, sidelined, or rejected, whether through ignorance, political maneuvering, or fear, communities invariably fell into profound confusion, deep internal division, and often widespread injustice.
It's a pattern.
A clear pattern. The refusal to recognize or remain loyal to the divinely appointed imams has time and time again propelled the global Muslim community, the Ummah, into periods of turmoil and fragmentation. These historical moments are not just isolated episodes buried in the past. They offer enduring moral and spiritual lessons that resonate powerfully even today, warning us about the dangers of straying from the designated path.
And the very first major deviation, which we touched upon right after the Prophet's death, was that succession crisis. How did ignoring Ghadir Khumm impact the straight path right from the start?
Indeed. That initial moment was critical. Despite the Prophet's clear public declaration at Ghadir Khumm, affirming Imam Ali's spiritual authority and designating him as his successor, political pressures and competing interests unfortunately led to the installation of other leaders immediately after the Prophet's passing. This pivotal succession crisis wasn't just a political disagreement. It sowed profound seeds of disunity.
Seeds that grew.
Seeds that grew and tragically continue to manifest in various forms of sectarianism and division to this very day. The Prophet's warning, "Whoever I am Mawla to," Ali is his Mawla, wasn't a casual remark. It was seen as a divine command meant to preserve the unity and spiritual integrity of the community. Ignoring it fundamentally fractured the spiritual core of the Muslim community almost immediately, leading to a profound rift, a deviation from the clear path laid out.
And what was the long-term consequence of Imam Ali's marginalization for those 2 decades, for the broader Ummah, the community as a whole?
It had deep and lasting consequences. For over 2 decades, Imam Ali, despite being divinely designated, was unfortunately forced into a marginalized role, largely removed from the direct leadership and guidance of the rapidly growing Muslim empire. During this critical formative period, the wider Muslim community began to drift significantly from the deeper esoteric meanings, batin, of divine revelation that Ali uniquely embodied and could explain.
The focus shifted.
Yes. Spiritual interpretation, the ta'wil which the imams were uniquely positioned to provide, was gradually replaced by increasingly legalistic and often overtly politicized readings of the Qur'an. This tragically deprived many of the faithful of access to the very soul, the inner life of divine wisdom. Profound insight risked being replaced by rigid adherence to outward forms. The path became increasingly externalized, potentially losing its inner light for those not connected to the Imam.
And perhaps one of the darkest chapters resulting directly from this deviation, this contested leadership, is the tragedy of Karbala. What enduring lesson does that specific event offer about the straight path?
Karbala.
Yes.
It stands as one of the most heart-wrenching and darkest chapters in all of Islamic history. Imam Hussein, the beloved grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, was martyred along with his family and close companions. It wasn't just a battle between individuals or armies. It was a devastating confrontation where truth, embodied by Imam Hussein representing the living continuity of the straight path and refusing to legitimize a corrupt ruler, met falsehood, represented by Yazid's brutal usurpation of power for purely worldly gain and defiance of Islamic principles.
Stark contrast.
A stark clash of worldviews, of values. And when many of the Prophet's surviving companions and the general populace in Kufa and elsewhere stood by in silence, or even worse, actively aligned themselves with the tyrant Yazid out of fear or ambition, they didn't just betray a man or his family.
They betrayed something bigger.
They betrayed a profound divine legacy, the very principle of righteous leadership and adherence to truth. Karbala serves as the ultimate agonizing lesson in what happens when a community prioritizes temporal security, worldly comfort, or political expediency over eternal truth and divine principles.
But it also shows something else.
Yes. It also powerfully affirms that walking the straight path can, at times, demand standing virtually alone, in absolute defiance of overwhelming injustice, even if it means sacrificing one's very life. It's a stark reminder that staying true to principle, especially divinely ordained principle, even when unpopular or dangerous, is the essence of this path. Think about whistleblowers today, that same spirit of uncompromising truth against overwhelming power.
And the longer-term impact of rejecting this consistent lineage-based guidance has been the fragmentation of the Muslim world into numerous sects and schools of thought, right?
Absolutely. That's widely seen as a direct consequence. Following the initial sidelining and later persecution of the imams, the broader Muslim world regrettably experienced a severe fragmentation. Numerous diverse sects, schools of law, madhabs, and theological schools, kalam, emerged. Debates over legal minutiae, political allegiance, and increasingly complex, often speculative doctrinal interpretations flourished.
Without a central authority.
Often without a unifying, singular spiritual authority recognized by all to provide clarity and coherence. Without the continuous illuminating light of the Imam as a living guide, interpretations of the Qur'an often became rigid, contradictory, overly literal, or influenced by political agendas. The profound inner dimensions of faith risked being lost amidst outward formality and endless, often bitter, disputation.
Does the Qur'an warn against this?
It does. The Qur'an itself warns against this very fragmentation in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 105. And do not be like those who became divided and differed after the clear proofs had come to them. The absence of a central, divinely guided leadership from this perspective unfortunately opened the door wide to potential extremism, spiritual stagnation, and vulnerability to political corruption within parts of the community over centuries.
So these aren't just dusty, ancient historical events. They hold direct, powerful lessons for the present day, perhaps mirroring some of the challenges we see now.
Indeed, they are incredibly relevant. Today, the global Muslim community continues to grapple with profound issues of disunity, pervasive sectarianism in many regions, and sometimes a sense of ethical disorientation in the face of modernity. The historical pattern seems undeniably clear. Wherever divinely appointed guidance is ignored, diluted, or replaced entirely by human interpretations alone, the path inevitably loses its clarity, its unifying force, and the community often suffers as a result.
But there's a contrast.
Yes. The contrast is that for those communities, like the Ismailis, who recognize and faithfully adhere to the Imam-of-the-Time, the straight path remains vibrantly accessible, clearly defined. His presence serves to recenter the faith, offering not just ritual instruction but profound spiritual clarity, consistent ethical leadership grounded in faith, and a truly compassionate, intellectually engaged worldview that can navigate the complexities of the modern world.
So history teaches a lesson.
It really does, and it raises that important question again. How do we, as learners, as individuals, as a global community, actively avoid repeating the profound missteps of the past? History teaches us the absolute necessity, from this perspective, of recognizing and adhering to continuous divine guidance embodied in the Imam as the only sure way to avoid the pitfalls of division, confusion, and stagnation.
Okay, this makes it clear why the concept of imamat is so central. It seems like this doctrine is really more than just a historical continuation of leadership. It's perceived as the very living heart of Islam's inner path, the batin.
You've hit on the core of it exactly. The doctrine of imamat isn't merely about a historical succession plan after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his progeny. It is unequivocally understood as the theological heart, the pulsating center of Islam's inner path.
The imams are the path made manifest.
In a very real sense, yes. The imams are understood to be the living embodiments of Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path made manifest and accessible in every single era. Through their continuous guidance, the eternal truth of revelation is interpreted for the times, lived out in practice, and steadfastly protected from distortion or misunderstanding. Their presence isn't merely symbolic or historical. It is considered absolutely essential for the ongoing spiritual evolution, guidance, and well-being of the faithful.
So the Qur'an itself points to this idea of a divine light in every age being present through the Imam. You mentioned Surah Yasin again.
Precisely. That verse we discussed, Qur'an 36.12. And we have vested everything in the manifest Imam. Imam-e Mubin is key here. According to Ismaili interpretation, this points directly to the living Imam of the time. He holds or embodies both the outer meanings of the law, the Sharia, accessible to all, and the inner esoteric mysteries, the akaka of revelation, which require his guidance to unlock.
Like the sun analogy.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Just as the sun is the indispensable source of all physical light and warmth, the Imam is understood as the continuous source of spiritual illumination, the Nur of Allah. He is not a replacement for the Prophet, but rather the direct extension of the Prophet's radiant light and sacred mission, making divine wisdom continuously accessible in a living form.
And this light, this guidance, has shown through an unbroken chain of Imams for centuries. That sounds like an incredible, almost unique historical and spiritual legacy.
It is truly remarkable. From Imam Ali, the first Imam, right down to the current 50th Imam, Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan, the Ismaili tradition has meticulously preserved and followed an unbroken chain, or silsila, of Imams. Each Imam in this sacred lineage is considered uniquely equipped by divine designation to guide the community, the Ummah, according to the specific needs, challenges, and context of their particular era.
And their authority comes from?
Their authority is understood as dual. It's both hereditary, passed down through a specific lineage from the Prophet through Imam Ali and Hazrat Fatima, and profoundly divinely sanctioned. It draws its spiritual legitimacy directly from the Prophet's designation at Qadir Kum and that Qur'anic mandate we keep returning to. Obey those vested with authority among you. 4.59.
And their mission has been consistent.
Absolutely consistent in its core. Despite the incredibly varied historical challenges they faced over 14 centuries, some Imams lived in secrecy, Sadr, due to intense persecution, while others, like the Fatimid Caliph Imams or the modern Imams, led vast networks of learning, governance, and development. Their fundamental mission has remained constant, to uphold justice, to safeguard the integrity of the faith, both Zahir and Batin, and to continuously guide souls toward God.
So they're not just spiritual leaders in a narrow sense, but also moral and ethical guides who actively engage with the world's problems. Their guidance isn't just about prayer and ritual.
Absolutely not. It's holistic. While the world undergoes rapid, sometimes dizzying transformations in politics, technology, culture, and society, the moral compass provided by the Imam remains steadfast and unwavering. He interprets the timeless truths of Islam in ways that are both ethically relevant and spiritually uplifting for contemporary life.
Can you give an example?
Certainly. Look at the work of Imam Shakarima Hussaini Aga Khan IV, the 49th Imam, an immediate predecessor to the current Imam. He consistently emphasized universal values deeply rooted in Islamic ethics. Pluralism, respect for diversity, environmental stewardship, the paramount importance of the pursuit of knowledge and intellect, and profound social justice, or adl.
Through his speeches and institutions.
Exactly. His speeches, his initiatives, and the vast network of institutions he established under the Aga Khan Development Network, AKDN, consistently reflect a deep Quranic ethos of selfless service, khidmah, to humanity, regardless of faith or background, all while firmly anchoring believers in the spiritual wisdom and practices of their faith. It's a powerful model of ethical leadership in action.
And you mentioned they also serve as a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual world, the seen, Zahir, and the unseen, Batin. How do they achieve that bridging role?
That's a crucial aspect of their function. The Imams serve as the indispensable bridge connecting the manifest world, the Zahir, the world of physical reality, laws, rituals, and the hidden or esoteric realm, the Batanth world of inner meaning, spiritual truths, divine realities.
Guides to both realms.
Exactly. In this profound sense, they're not only guides to living an ethical life in the material world, but also profound teachers of esoteric knowledge, the hidden wisdom within the faith. Their unique role is to unveil the inner meanings, the tawil of the Qur'an, those deeper meanings that often remain concealed and inaccessible to those who approach the sacred text, relying solely on literal interpretation or unaided human reason.
Like Imam Ali's comment about Surah al-Fatiha.
Precisely. Imam Ali once famously remarked, as tradition holds, "If I wished, I could load 70 camels with the exegesis interpretation of Surah al-Fatiha alone." This isn't meant literally, of course, but it illustrates the extraordinary depth of meaning, the ocean of wisdom, contained within revelation that only the divinely guided Imams can fully access, interpret, and transmit to the faithful according to their capacity.
And without that guidance.
The risk from this perspective is that faith can become merely external, formalistic, rigidly legalistic, losing its profound inner vitality, its spiritual dynamism. The Imam keeps the inner path alive and accessible.
So, for contemporary Ismailis, walking the path of the Imam today is a very real, very tangible experience. It's not just about loyalty to a historical concept.
Oh, absolutely. It is both a fundamental spiritual necessity and an endless source of daily inspiration and practical guidance. The farmans, which are the specific guidance given by the Imam-of-the-Time to his community.
Farmans, okay.
These are far more than mere religious instructions or advice. They are considered by believers to be divine counsel, showing how to live with unwavering integrity, spiritual balance, intellectual engagement, and profound purpose in every single aspect of life: work, family, community, personal growth.
Providing clarity in a complex world.
Exactly. In an age often characterized by moral relativism, overwhelming digital noise, information overload, and pervasive societal upheaval, the Imam offers an indispensable sense of clarity, stability, and constancy. He is Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path itself, made accessible, compassionate, relevant, and perfectly aligned with the divine will for this time. He provides a steadfast anchor in often turbulent times.
This is fascinating. The Imams aren't just figures from the past. They are the living, breathing manifestation of this straight path in every single era, ensuring Islam remains vibrant and transformative. This truly elevates the concept beyond just history or abstract theology.
It really does. They ensure that Islam remains not just a historical religion to be studied, but a living, vibrant, and inwardly transformative path for every generation. Through their ongoing guidance, the eternal divine wisdom continues to illuminate human lives, adapting ancient truths to modern contexts and challenges, keeping the faith dynamically alive.
And now, let's turn our attention fully to the present moment. Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan, as the 50th Imam, truly represents the renewal of this sacred trust. He is the living anchor of the straight path right now in our current age.
Indeed. It's understood that in every age, the Imam-of-the-Time embodies and reflects the divine light, the Nur, and possesses the profound wisdom necessary for guiding believers through the specific, unique challenges and complexities of their particular era. With the ascension of Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan as the 50th Imam of the worldwide Ismaili Muslim community, this sacred continuity, that unbroken chain of the sacred trust, Amana, has been beautifully renewed, ensuring the straight path remains vibrantly illuminated and accessible in the present day.
And the Ismaili understanding, as you've emphasized, that this is a living covenant, not just a historical succession based on lineage. What does that living covenant aspect mean for how the Imam interacts with today's world? How does it play out?
Precisely. That living aspect is paramount. The Ismaili understanding of the Imamat is deeply rooted in the belief that divine guidance is both continuous and manifest, made real and present in the world. This guidance is never abstract or purely theoretical. It is powerfully embodied in the living person of the Imam. He carries the sacred mantle of spiritual leadership, ethical direction, and intellectual clarity for his time.
So Shah Rahim Aga Khan continues this.
Yes, he assumes this paramount role as a direct continuation of that ancient covenant made at Ghadir Qom and meticulously maintained through every single Imam since Imam Ali. This living, dynamic guidance is perhaps the defining characteristic that distinguishes the Ismaili interpretation. The Imam is not a remote symbolic figurehead, but an active, present, and spiritually charged guide who deeply engages with the complex realities of modern life while steadfastly upholding timeless Islamic principles.
So he's actively expected to respond to the new ethical dilemmas and global challenges of our specific modern world, providing faith-based answers or perspectives on contemporary problems.
Absolutely. That's inherent in the role. The modern world presents an unprecedented array of new ethical dilemmas. Think bioethics, artificial intelligence, environmental ethics, alongside complex societal challenges like globalization, migration, inequality, political polarization, and profound questions of identity, justice, and faith in a secularizing world.
Huge issues.
Massive issues. From the rapid advancements in science and technology to the urgent crises of climate change and global inequality, the Imam's guidance becomes vital. His role is to interpret the timeless truths of Islam in a way that responds meaningfully and dynamically to these contemporary realities without ever compromising its core eternal values. His leadership will undoubtedly continue the Imam's tradition of offering faith-based perspectives and responses to pressing global concerns, effectively bridging ancient wisdom with modern necessity.
And that leads directly to the ethical leadership aspect of the Imam, which you mentioned has always been a hallmark. How is that likely to manifest in his approach? What's the emphasis?
It has always been central. Ismaili Imams has consistently emphasized ethics akhlaq as the foundational pillar of faith. For him, faith without ethical living, without translating belief into righteous action, is hollow, incomplete, perhaps even meaningless. Therefore, the Imam serves as a constant moral compass, not only for individual personal conduct, but also crucially for the collective well-being of the community, Jamaat, and indeed for humanity at large.
So his guidance extends beyond the community.
The ethical vision is universal, rooted in Islamic principles of compassion, justice, and stewardship. Shah Rahim's leadership is fully expected to significantly expand upon this robust moral framework established by his predecessors, actively encouraging believers to live lives defined by self-service, khidmah, the pursuit of profound excellence in all endeavors, and a deep sense of responsibility towards others and the planet.
In practical terms,
Whether it is in the vital fields of education, healthcare, economic development, cultural revitalization, or social welfare, the spheres where the AKDN operates the Imam's comprehensive vision encompasses the full spectrum of human dignity and flourishing. This truly is the straight path in action, not just in prayer or belief, but vividly embodied in dedicated service, ethical conduct, and profound intention to improve the quality of human life.
so it's clearly about continuity with the rich legacy of the past, but also about innovation and adaptation for the future, finding that balance.
Exactly that balance. Shah Rahim Aga Khan inherits an incredibly rich and multifaceted legacy, imbued with deep spiritual insight from his predecessors and tangible institutional impact worldwide. Think of the Aga Khan Development Network, AKDN, the University of Central Asia, the Aga Khan Museums, the Global Center for Pluralism, the consistent promotion of interfaith dialogue and global ethics. It's vast.
It's a huge foundation.
A huge foundation. Yet it's understood that each Imam brings new, unique dimensions, perspectives, and priorities to this enduring legacy, responding to the specific spirit of the age. In a world being rapidly transformed by the digital revolution, unprecedented global migrations, increasing political polarization, and environmental crises, Shah Rahim's leadership will undoubtedly offer a vision of profound balance, a vision deeply rooted in the sacred texts of the Qur'an, brilliantly illuminated by the Prophet's exemplary model, and made vibrantly relevant for today and tomorrow through contemporary wisdom and intellectual insight.
Ultimately, then, the Imam is the anchor of the straight path for his time. How does that translate down to the believer's personal spiritual journey? What's the connection?
Fundamentally, yes, the Imam is the living anchor, the personification of the straight path for his era. To follow him, to give allegiance, bay'ah, is understood as embarking on a path toward divine nearness, qurb, guided by rigorous moral discipline, intellectual engagement, and potential for profound spiritual fulfillment.
Both guide and goal.
In the Ismaili tradition, the Imam is often described poetically and theologically as both the guide who leads you on the journey, and in a symbolic sense, the goal inasmuch as recognizing him is recognizing the divine light. He is the very means through whom one journeys towards God, and the luminous light by which one sees and discerns the divine reality along the way.
The bridge.
As the 50th bearer of this sacred light, Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan serves as that luminous bridge connecting the faithful to the divine, ensuring that the path remains clear, relevant, and accessible in the 21st century. So to walk the Sirat al-Mustaqim today, for an Ismaili, is to walk consciously with him, through profound devotion, ishq, deep understanding and refinement, and purposeful action, amal. And what's truly fascinating here, stepping back, is seeing how the institution, the Imam itself, demonstrates this incredible capacity to adapt timeless wisdom to the dynamic, often turbulent challenges of our time. This living guidance ensures the path isn't static, isn't some museum piece, but remains ever relevant, always speaking powerfully to the present moment.
Okay, so we've explored a lot, the theological underpinnings, the historical context, the role of the Prophet and the Imams, right up to the present day. But let's get really practical now. How does all this translate into daily life? What does it actually mean to walk this straight path day to day in our complex modern world, beyond just the theory?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. Mm-hmm. This is where the concept truly comes alive and becomes actionable, not just something you believe in intellectually. Living on the Sirat al-Mustaqim in today's fast-paced, pluralistic, often incredibly confusing world requires far more than just, say, performing rituals correctly or having the right intellectual affirmations.
It demands more.
It demands profound intentionality, niyyah, acute awareness or mindfulness, and a constant conscious effort to renew one's relationship with the divine through the Imam. So this section aims to provide a kind of practical framework, deeply rooted in Ismaili theology and practice, but hopefully infused with wisdom relevant to anyone seeking a more guided life, for actively walking the straight path in everyday situations. It's about making your entire existence, potentially, a sacred journey.
Okay, where do we start? You mentioned centering the Imam in daily life. What does that actually look like for a believer? practically?
The first and absolutely most vital principle is to consciously anchor your entire spiritual journey, your inner compass, in the continuous guidance of the Imam-of-the-Time. This isn't just a vague feeling. It translates into concrete practical steps.
Such as?
Well, for example, it means regularly engaging with the Imam's farmans, his direct guidance. Not just reading them, but reflecting deeply, maybe focusing on one specific piece of guidance daily, and consciously striving to apply its wisdom in your actions, your decisions, your interactions that day.
Making it active.
Very active. It means attending Jamaat Khana, the Ismaili place of prayer and community gathering, with profound intention and presence, seeking spiritual nourishment, not just fulfilling an obligation. It involves cultivating a personal devotion through consistent prayer, dua, deep reflection, tafakkur, and maintaining that active posture of trust and obedience, ita, rooted in love.
So the Imam isn't distant?
Not at all. For the believer, the Imam is considered your closest spiritual companion, a living conduit to divine wisdom and mercy. So you actively strive to embody the core values of humility, balance, generosity, service, and ethical conduct that the Imam consistently emphasizes in his guidance. And perhaps finally, it's about reframing life's inherent challenges, difficulties at work, family issues, health problems, viewing them not merely as obstacles or punishments, but as potential opportunities for spiritual growth, trusting deeply in the wisdom and compassion of divine guidance channeled through the Imam to help navigate them. It becomes a constant living conversation with that guidance.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's the ethical component, which seems incredibly important, especially in a world full of, let's face it, moral gray areas and temptations. How does the straight path guide us specifically in our ethical conduct?
Absolutely critical. Sirat al-Mustaqim fundamentally demands ethical consistency, not just in your private person behavior, but crucially in how you relate to others, family, colleagues, strangers, and even extending to how you interact with the environment, with creation itself.
Choosing right over easy.
That's a great way to put it. In a world often shaped by rampant consumerism, pervasive social injustice, and an overwhelming focus on materialism, living ethically on this path means consciously choosing the right course over the easy one, prioritizing justice over mere popularity or personal gain.
Practically speaking.
Practically. This involves things like practicing profound financial integrity, earning honestly, spending responsibly, avoiding waste, being generous with your resources. It means respecting the inherent dignity, karama, of every single human being, regardless of their background or beliefs, especially in moments of conflict or disagreement. It calls for you to stand firmly for justice, Adil, and to speak truthfully, even when it might be inconvenient or carry personal risk. And increasingly emphasized today, it means treating nature and all of God's creation not as a resource to be exploited, but as a sacred trust. Amana, recognizing our profound responsibility as stewards, Khalifa. This is the path of conscious, responsible, moral action in the world.
The pursuit of knowledge, both religious and secular, is also a key part of this path in the Ismaili tradition, isn't it? It's not just about blind faith, but about engaging the intellect.
It is, emphatically so. The Imam tradition throughout history has actively encouraged the diligent pursuit of knowledge ilm. And this isn't restricted only to religious scriptures and traditions, but explicitly includes secular knowledge, scientific inquiry, philosophical thought, the arts and humanities. The idea is that all knowledge, pursued with the right intention, can lead closer to understanding the divine.
Intellect and heart together.
Exactly. Walking the straight path means cultivating a sharp, discerning intellect alongside a soft, compassionate heart. Faith and reason work together. Practically, this means dedicating consistent time weekly or even daily for reading, learning, and contemplation. This could be deep Quranic commentary, studying the Imam's farmans, engaging with broad global scholarship, reading history, science, philosophy.
And discussing it.
Yes. Engaging in meaningful dialogue, mubaraka, with others, to refine your perspectives, challenge your own assumptions respectfully, and learn from diverse viewpoints. And crucially, it stresses practicing intellectual humility, constantly recognizing how much there is always to learn, acknowledging the limits of one's own understanding, and being open to new insights. It's a lifelong commitment to learning and intellectual growth as a form of worship.
And it's clearly not just an individual path focused inward, it's deeply communal, with service to humanity, khidma, right at its heart. How does that integrate into daily life for someone trying to walk this path?
Indeed, that outward turn is essential. The straight path, as understood here, is inherently communal, not a solitary pursuit disconnected from the world. Both the Prophet and the Imams have consistently emphasized that selfless service to others, particularly the vulnerable and marginalized, is, in essence, service to God himself. Therefore, social responsibility isn't an optional extra for the pious. It is an integral and indispensable component of truly walking the path.
So what are some practical steps?
Practical steps include things like actively volunteering your time, your professional skills, your resources in causes that directly alleviate suffering, promote education, improve health, or build opportunity for others, both within and beyond your own community. It means consciously supporting institutions like those of the AKDN or other ethical organizations that are aligned with principles of sustainable ethical development, especially those rooted in the Imam's vision for a just and equitable world. And sometimes, crucially, it involves simply being present for others in their moments of grief, need, illness, or even celebration, offering genuine human connection, empathy, and support. It's about building strong, compassionate, ethical communities.
You know, in our hyper-connected, constantly buzzing world, cultivating inner stillness seems almost like an act of rebellion, a deliberate countercultural choice. How does that fit onto the straight path?
It is increasingly seen as a profound spiritual necessity, perhaps more now than ever. Amidst the relentless digital overload, the constant bombardment of information, and the frenetic motion of modern life, deliberately cultivating moments of inner stillness, of quiet contemplation, becomes a powerful form of resistance to distraction, and more importantly, a direct doorway to experiencing divine presence.
Finding the sacred in the moment.
Exactly. The straight path, in this sense, is fundamentally a path of profound attentiveness, Dick in its broader meaning, to the sacredness hidden within the present moment. Recognizing the divine signature in the everyday, we just pause to look. Practical steps include consciously beginning and ending your day with some form of remembrance of God, maybe formal prayers, maybe silent centering reflection, maybe listening to devotional music like Qasidas.
And during the day?
During the day, it means practicing sabr, which is often translated as patience, but also means steadfastness or perseverance, especially in moments of anger, frustration, or anxiety. Allowing a moment of stillness to enter before reacting impulsively. And it encourages using nature, music, art, things that bypass the purely rational mind as deliberate gateways to reconnect with the divine presence that permeates all creation. It's about actively seeking and creating pockets of profound peace and presence in the midst of inevitable chaos.
And finally, weaving all these threads together, it's about building a life of intention and meaning. What's the core principle there? How does intention guide the walk?
This really brings it all together. Sirat al-Mustaqim ultimately isn't about achieving some static state of perfection, which is impossible for humans anyway. It is fundamentally about maintaining a clear, unwavering spiritual direction, a constant orientation towards the divine. What truly matters, from this perspective, is not how far you think you've progressed, but whether you are consistently, intentionally moving towards the light, towards God's pleasure.
Intention is key.
Intention, or niyyah, is absolutely critical here in Islamic tradition. It's the spiritual GPS. A pure intention can elevate even the most mundane act, whether you're working at your job, eating a meal, spending time with family, or resting, giving it a potentially sacred dimension, turning it into an act of worship.
How do you cultivate that?
Practical steps involve things like setting a clear personal intention each morning, consciously connecting all your planned actions for the day, however small, to a larger divine purpose. Maybe keeping a gratitude journal to continually track and acknowledge where you've witnessed divine grace or blessings in your life, reinforcing that connection. And it means regularly, perhaps periodically, reassessing your life goals, your ambitions, your priorities. Are they truly aligned with your soul's deeper journey? Are they contributing to your spiritual growth or pulling you away? It's about striving to live a life of conscious, integrated spiritual purpose.
So this isn't just theory at all. It's a deeply practical blueprint for living a meaningful life. It really is about weaving together devotion to God through the Imam, consistent ethics, intellectual inquiry, selfless service, inner stillness, and conscious intention, making the path a living reality that permeates every single moment.
Indeed. That's the goal, the aspiration. The straight path isn't some distant, abstract concept you only think about during prayer. It is profoundly near. It is the light understood to be within you, the unwavering guidance perpetually offered before you through the Imam, and the constant presence of the divine accessible in every moment if you cultivate the awareness to perceive it. By consciously weaving together all these strands, devotion, ethics, inquiry, service, stillness, and pure intention, you strive to walk this path not just in specific rituals, but in the entirety of your life, transforming it hopefully into a continuous act of worship and spiritual growth.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, it feels incredibly clear that Sirat al-Mustaqim is far, far more than just an ancient concept or a line in a prayer. It's truly an eternal living path of divine guidance.
Living is the key word.
Deeply rooted in the Qur'an, yes, and in the prophetic tradition, absolutely. But we've really seen its dynamic nature today, especially within the Ismaili thought we focused on, sustained and made relevant through the continuous manifest guidance of the Imam-of-the-Time.
That continuity is everything.
We've journeyed through centuries of wisdom, haven't we? From the Prophet's time, through Imam Ali, through the subsequent Imams, right up to the present day with the 50th Imam, Shah Rahim al-Husseini Aga Khan. We've explored its theological foundations, Tawheed, Rubuwa, Imama, Wilaya. We've learned from those sobering historical lessons when guidance was rejected or ignored.
Important warnings there.
Definitely. And we've understood its powerful practical applications for how to live, how to navigate our lives today. This journey has really shown, I think, how this straight path offers profound clarity, a genuine anchor in a world that often feels like it's desperately seeking direction.
And ultimately, the straight path isn't some distant trail you have to search for out in the wilderness or in old books, though wisdom is there too. From this perspective, it's the intimate nearness of divine wisdom itself, brilliantly illuminated in every single age by the living Imam. And it's consciously walked step by every soul who seeks God with sincerity, with love, with devotion. It is, in its deepest essence, the soul's profound journey of return home.
A journey home.
A journey towards illumination, towards its realization of profound truth, and ultimately its potential union with the divine, with the Imam serving as that perfectly clear, ever-present, and compassionate guide for that journey.
Which leaves us, and perhaps you listening, with a final provocative thought to ponder. The path, as described, is clear. The guide, the Imam, is understood to be near and accessible, and the ultimate destination, divine union, is radiant. So the question becomes personal. How might embracing a continuous living form of divine guidance transform your own unique journey toward greater clarity, deeper purpose, and more abundant inner light?
A question worth reflecting on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to reflect on these insights and perhaps explore further on your own. Until next time, keep digging deeper.